Also, all the materials that I'm going to provide to you tonight, the PowerPoint presentation, as well as the things that I'm going to reference, including our dress code policy and the website, we will also share with you in an email after the session. So I am going to share my screen with you and try to get this going. So the first thing that I'd like to do is make sure that, sorry, share the other screen. Is sort of talk to you a little bit about our clinical procedures. We've actually changed our procedures this year, and so today in this session we're going to just talk about who we are, and there have been a lot of changes in the College of Education, especially in our office, as well as what those program redesign changes are specific to clinical placements. We're going to talk about our clinical placement procedures and how that impacts you as our school partners, and then how those placement procedures have changed for our students. We're going to also talk about some troubleshooting that can be done between our office and our school partners, and then I'll answer any questions that you may have. So to begin, you may want to know who I am. My name is Tisha Green. I'm the Assistant Dean for the Office of School and Community Partnerships here at the Cato College of Education. And I just entered my second year here. I just finished my first year. And I am a former alum of UNC Charlotte, graduated from here with my undergraduate degree in English as a North Carolina teaching fellow, and then came back and got my master's in English education. So last year, this office became the Office of School and Community Partnerships, and the office was previously known as the Office of Field Experiences. Our office merged with the Office of Educational Outreach, and a lot of the function of our office did not change. We're still placing student teachers and year-long interns, and we're also focusing on early clinicals. So our students will either be placed for early clinicals in year-long internship 1 or year-long internship 2. And the year-long internship 2 schools, they are also our partnership schools that include our student teaching semester. And also know that as a part of our work, we also support school and community organizations with hosting events, providing professional development, and other educational initiatives. So here on out in the presentation, I'm going to use quite a bit of jargon. The first term that you might hear me use, probably not as much in the presentation, but I will probably slip up and use it, is the term faculty site coordinator. And they're also known as site coordinators. And they were formerly our university supervisors, and that term can be confusing because they actually work here at the university, but they are the ones that supervise the student teachers or the teacher candidates out in the field. And so from here on out, instead of saying students, our students, I will be using the term candidate to not confuse our students with your students. And they are university students completing a program toward an education license. And then the clinical educators are the site-based teachers that host our candidates during the clinical or student teaching experience. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about our program redesign, because last year we talked to a lot of our partners about that, but this year the impact of the redesign will come into play specifically with our clinical placements. So all of our programs were redesigned last year so that both undergraduate and graduate candidates will experience a year-long internship. That is a huge shift for us because only our undergraduate students were ever placed in year-long internships. So if I have any secondary principals or partners out there, I need lots of secondary placements for year-long internships now. We just got a cohort through this summer, and I have about 22 candidates who need placements. We just received their applications about 2 weeks ago, and their clinical or year-long internship experience begins on Monday. So all of our undergraduate candidates will actually now experience 2 year-long internships instead of just 1. And the first year-long internship occurs during the junior year. And for our middle grades candidates, it actually starts the second semester of their sophomore year because they have that second licensure area. Or second content area, sorry. And then the second year-long internship culminates in the student teaching for all of our candidates. And I might add that this does not include those candidates who are considered residents or former lateral entry. They still have a year-long internship, but they're actually interning where they're employed. So we do not actually place them in another school. So this redesign actually included our school partners. One of the things they mentioned was that our candidates needed additional opportunities for field experiences in schools, working with students. So we are now seeking partner schools who will host candidates for their first year-long internship. And they'll be in their junior year, or if they're graduate students, they'll be in really sort of their first kind of semester. They may have had a short semester of classes, but they're really in their first or second semester of classes. And most of these candidates will spend time working with students in one-on-one or small group settings. They'll rarely teach whole group during the first year-long internship. And so now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what the clinical placement will actually look like and that process. So all of our candidates are in 3 different types of placements. There are some exceptions to this rule, however. So the first would be that they're in an early clinical placement. So that would be either EDUC or SPED 2100 or 3100 level course, or they're in their year-long 1 or 2 internship. Some of our candidates that are outside of their early clinical experiences might spend a full year at your site prior to the student teaching year. So obviously these candidates they may be taking several different courses, but they're going to be outside of the clinical experience. There are some students who may be exceptions to this rule. So some of our elementary candidates have to do some experiences for heart tutoring, and we have limited heart tutoring sites. So those candidates might conduct their 10 hours of heart tutoring, but then they would still be placed at your site for their year-long internship. We have some candidates who are in some specialized content areas, so foreign language, and because some of those candidates want to see an early placement, so they might want to see a K6 placement, and some of them might want to see a secondary placement. So they may have some clinical experiences outside of their year-long placement, but they still will have that primary year-long 1 placement as well as a year-long 2 placement. And one of the things we want to let schools know is that this is a great recruitment tool for you, because our candidates will really get a chance to immerse themselves in your school. They'll get a chance to really understand your school culture, and hopefully it will reinforce their commitment to wanting to be a teacher. Also note that some of our candidates in the arts field are not really completing a full year-long internship, but more so they're getting their placements at the school site in a way that allows them to conduct all their clinicals at one site. But they don't have as intense of a placement as our candidates that really have these year-long 1 and 2 placements. So there are some procedures for our school contacts that we want you to follow for these placements, and they are quite different than we've had previously. So our candidates, using the information that you sent to us, can begin signing up for their clinical experiences next week. However, they will not contact you, I promise, next week. We ask them to hold off until after school has begun for you all. Part of the reason we're allowing them to sign up a little earlier is because we have so many school districts that have early start dates. And so we didn't want to hold our students back from signing up for clinicals, since we know their semesters are going to end earlier than our student semesters. But we do ask them to wait until after the first week of school to begin their clinical placement. Unless we hear from you that, hey, we could use the students, we might need extra set of hands in our school. So we do, want to make sure that we're sensitive to the needs of our school partners. I was a principal for 9 years, and I know what the first week of school was like. In fact, I think my last couple years, I was the last school to have the all clear for buses. So I definitely know what it's like to be there the first week of school. One of the other things that we're asking school contacts to do that's very different in the past, because our students are at the year-long site, is to submit a spreadsheet of the clinical educators that are hosting our candidates on or around November 1st. And part of that is because we always send out a disposition survey. It's sent by our Office of Assessment and Accreditation on our candidates at the end of the semester. But by allowing us to have that information from the school contact and not the student, we can make sure that the information is correct. We can make sure that the student is coming. We can make sure that there's accountability. And also it allows us for better reporting. Oftentimes we don't have the right email address, and it's hard to then follow up, because by the time we're able to make sure that we have the correct information, the semester's over, the student's gone, and we'd really like to capture the student's progress before the semester ends. We will also make sure to send the school contact for clinical placements this spreadsheet well before November 1st. That way you're not having to fill it out and send it back in super quick. We will make sure to get it to you well in advance, and we will try to do it electronically so that it is as easy as possible for you to complete. So all of our school contacts will have a facing page that you can check to see which students are signed up for clinicals. I will tell you that one of the things that I've been charged with is changing our database system for clinicals so that in real time you might actually get some notification that students have signed up for clinicals. Our current system requires you to log into your unique link to see if a new student has signed up for a clinical. However, this year we are requiring students to sign up for clinicals by a specific deadline. So students will have to sign up for their clinicals by October 1st. Our semester starts August 19th. So there's no reason for students not to have signed up for their clinical placements by October 1st. You can send an email to all the students by then. They should have met with their course instructors. They should have determined what their assignments are. They should know how many hours they need. This will be communicated to all the course instructors. And so there should be no issues with them signing up by then. It doesn't mean they have to have all their hours completed. It just means that they will have signed up with you, and therefore you can let them know of any dates that may not work for your school. Any information, you can ask them how many teachers they might need. Some of them might need a K2 placement and a 3-5 placement, or they might need a placement in an honors level class and a regular level class. They have some specific placement requirements based on the clinical chart that was sent out with the request for clinicals. So this will allow you to see a little bit more information about the requirements, and it'll allow you to determine what the students who've signed up for your school need. And I just encourage whoever the contact is to go ahead and send an email to all the students and set your own parameters and make sure they adhere to that. So here are the procedures that we set for our candidates. And for those of you who are not quite in back to school mode, hopefully this helped you get there. So for our candidates, we do require them to adhere to the background clearance requirements for the school and or district. We try to provide them with as much information as we have. All of our district contacts generally let us know what those requirements are, and they are located on our website. If there are any updates, we do try to maintain that information. We do ask our candidates to confirm the time and date with the school contact or the clinical educator to whose classroom they've been assigned. So if they have that person's email or contact information, they shouldn't just show up at your school. They should have made arrangements to come, and they shouldn't bother you in the middle of the day. They should have a confirmed appointment. In some cases, the candidate may need to observe more than one classroom or clinical educator, as I stated, and so that should also have been arranged. They shouldn't just show up and go to one classroom and say, oh, by the way, I need to see another classroom. All of that should be made clear, and you should have no issue. Please don't take issue with trying to make that clear in an email to them. I would not feel bad about you taking the lead on, here are the things I need to know about your clinical placement. Candidates should have the clinical educator or school contact. It should be the clinical educator, not the school contact. But if for some reason they had already planned to come that day and the clinical educator is out sick, and it's okay that they're in the classroom because they're observing groups of students, it's okay if the contact signs off on the attendance log versus a substitute or something of that nature. Some of our students do have to take public transportation or Uber. They don't have personal transportation, and so it's an expense when they've come out to the school and the person they're planning on observing isn't there, or an emergency has come up and they're not able to work with the student. So rather than sending them back, it's better if you can let them observe if it was no fault of their own. So some additional procedures for our students. We do have updated field experience checklists, and those activities should be discussed and agreed upon by the clinical educator and candidate. Additional activities may be assigned by course instructors, and please note that those may not be listed on the checklist, and those checklists are going to be housed on our website. I will show you where that information is on our website, but please know it is all under construction. So as soon as we have all of that information loaded, you'll be able to see it. The students will be able to access it, and it should all be available this week. And you should feel free to contact me, as well as the clinical educator can contact me or the course instructor if there are any questions or concerns. We definitely want to make sure that you feel comfortable contacting us. Candidates must adhere to the dress code policy and all school and district rules and policies. And at the end of each semester, a survey is sent to the clinical educator to evaluate the candidate's performance, which I mentioned before. And please note, we do want to make sure our clinical educators take this survey. It can't be the school contact. It has to be the clinical educator because it is our professional dispositions assessment. And that is something that our candidates are very used to. We go over it with them throughout their program, and they actually have this assessment taken on them throughout their year-long 1, their year-long 2, and at the end of student teaching. So we want to see that they've improved, but we also want to see that they are meeting a set standard. And we also use the survey to make program improvements. So one of the improvements we're making is this move to a year-long 1 and 2 versus having students just go to clinicals at various schools all over the place and never really getting a handle on where they are having a cohesive experience. So the last thing I'd really like to talk about is some ways to troubleshoot and address problems before they actually arise. And there are some things that have come up throughout. One is, candidates should always adhere to our education dress code policy. We will make sure that you have a copy of that. And what I always say is your front office staff should have a copy of that. And if a student does not meet those guidelines, they should never get past the front office. I would hope they don't get past the front door. They shouldn't probably get buzzed into your school. But if for some reason they do, the first thing is find out who they are and call us if they are one of our candidates. And then, they should be sent home. They know that they must always remain professional and positive. They are guests in your school and they represent us. And they really need to dress appropriately. We do not allow them to wear jeans, even if it's a Friday dress down day for your staff, your school, they are not permitted to do so. We also want to avoid issues of them not completing their clinical or internship hours. So that is one of the reasons we want a list of clinical educators hosting students at your school and their email addresses. We have a disclaimer on our website that at any time we want to be able to check the authenticity of the signatures on their logs. Those logs get uploaded into our portfolio assessment system called TaskStream. And so we want to make sure that those are authentic signatures and that the hours they have recorded are actually the hours that they have physically been there. And so we may contact their clinical educator to verify those hours and the signatures. We also want you to contact our office or, of course, the course instructor if there are any concerns. If there's a concern over an assignment, if you feel like the student is not ready to take over, a larger group or a whole class, the course instructors, they are amazing and they want to hear that feedback because that means that they need to provide additional support in their classes. And also, if there's any kind of question about the number of hours our candidates have to complete, if the candidate says, oh, I only needed to do 5 hours, and you're looking at the clinical progression chart and you're like, well, this course that you're supposedly in says you're supposed to do 15, feel free to contact me or the course instructor. They should have no problem telling you who their course instructor is and the course instructor's email address. If they do, contact us. We have access to their class schedule and we have no problem getting that information to you. But they're a guest in your school. If they don't want to tell you that information, then you can politely tell them they don't need to come back. So now what I'd like to do, I'm going to minimize this, is see if there are any questions that you might have. And to do that, I am going to see if I can find my WebEx session. Sorry, I hit it. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second. And I do not see any questions. Oh, I see one. Oh, there's not a question, just a statement. Thanks, Chuck. That would be great. So let me know. If there are not any other questions, I will just put my contact information back on the screen for everyone, and that way everyone knows how to reach me. Sorry, trying to navigate to. So this is my contact. Well, it just went to the end. So this is my contact information. My email address and my phone number are there, but our main line is also there, and our website. And I am also going to just shift over to our website really quickly and show you that we have a new tab under our website called Clinicals. It is under construction, but when it is finished, our field experiences checklist will be here for our candidates. We'll also have some information for our partners, so I will let you know that there will be a tab there as well. And it'll have this PowerPoint, it'll have the recording, so it'll have all of that information as well for you. And there's also some information about from course instructors. And one of the things we do let course instructors know is that it's important for them to provide students with the entire semester to complete their clinical activities. Sometimes course instructors want to save it until the end of the semester, or they want them to do the entire semester, and oftentimes that creates a lot of stress for students, and that's often when we see our students not take it so seriously. So I think that will help alleviate some of those issues. But that is all that I have this afternoon. I want to thank you all for attending, and please know that if you have any questions, let us know. If you're interested in being a partner school for our clinical placements, please let us know. We are looking for our year-long 1 placements now. Partners placements now for all levels, elementary, middle, and high. And one of the things we just ask is that you can take up to 10 candidates. And a reminder that for clinicals, the clinical educators do not have to have any minimum qualifications. We want them to be good teachers, but they don't have to have any minimum years of experience. And so that is one of the great things about being a partner school for our year-long 1 is that you get lots of candidates. They're almost ready to graduate. Some of them are hireable. So our graduate students who are eligible for resident licenses but don't have jobs yet, we have 22 of them right now, some in very highly desirable areas, but it's a great opportunity for those of you who are looking for candidates. So feel free to email me if you're interested. Again, thank you so much for attending this evening, and we will send you out all the resources and materials for this evening. Have a great school year. Thanks.